Hello, my name is Brian Whittingham and I'm the current Renfrewshire Tannahill Makar, and I'd like to welcome you to this Renfrewshire Libraries event where we're exploring for National Poetry Day the theme of vision with the subtitle To See It Like a Poet, where we explore various points of view of poets looking at the world around them. And to this end, I'd like to welcome Sheila Templeton, Leslie Benzie, and Maggie Rabatsky, whom you'll hear from in subsequent videos. Each poet will give you their take on vision. You're in for a rare treat, let me tell you. They are three writers whose work I greatly admire. However, first you've got me. Oh, you've also got Theo van Gogh. Theo was Vincent's brother, and he helped him a lot on his road to discovering himself as an artist. And sometimes we all need a little help in life, don't we? Whether we're artists or otherwise. Some support really does do us a lot of good. So, writing poetry. First thing I'm going to do is read a little section from this book here, The Poet's Home Repair Manual, written by Ted Kooser. Ted Kooser's an American poet, very good poet. But in his book, he touches upon something that's a recurring theme with poetry, I would suggest. And he quotes a poem by Jared Carter. And what he does say is, a poem can alter the way a person sees the world, which is a pretty powerful statement. But I do believe it to be true. A poem can alter the way a person sees the world. So I'm going to read the beginning of Jared Carter's poem. It's called Fire Burning in a 55-gallon Drum. And this is the first verse. Next time you'll notice them on your way to work, or when you drive by that place near the river, where the stockyard used to stand, where everything is gone now. And what Kooser says is, for me, those first 5 words are amongst the most important in the poem. Next time, you'll notice them. Carter suggests that it's likely the reader of the poem will never again pass a group of men warming themselves at a barrel of fire without a sense of heightened awareness. We are thus indelibly marked by the poems we read, and the more poems we read, the deeper is our knowledge of the world. That's a key statement. We are indelibly marked by the poems we read, or the song lyrics we hear. Can take many forms. And the more poems we read, and the more song lyrics we pay attention to, the deeper is our knowledge of the world, and ourselves perhaps. So, that's from Ted Kooser. And moving on, I'm now going to read a little quote from this Norman McCaig book. The book's titled The Many Days, Selected Poems of Norman McCaig. And if you wish to get into poetry, you could do a lot worse than open up a Norman McCaig book. He will engage your intellect, your imagination, and your emotions. Now, Roderick Wilson, who wrote the foreword for the book, he said, I cannot think of any other poet anywhere who has so faithfully and so persistently explored the art of noticing and the nature of being in the world. So we come back to that word, notice. An artist must notice things, then perhaps interpret them the way they interpret them. However, whatever their perception is, it's triggered by noticing. An artist must explore the act of noticing and the nature of being in the world. So, that's a little bit of food for thought. And you've got these three great writers in future videos. However, first you've got me, and I'm going to read 2 poems and give you my background thoughts regarding these 2 poems. Thank you. Okay, so this poem's called Catching Memories. And the way it came about was, one day I went for a walk along beside Castle Semple Loch, which is on the road to Loch Winnoch. In Castle Semple Loch, all sorts of things going on. People walking in groups, families, people going fishing, people sailing, people walking in solitude, looking for a bit of headspace, people walking their dogs, very popular for that, all sorts of things. So it's a good way to study peopleology, study life. Also, can be a bracing walk, enjoyable, plenty of fresh air, all that malarkey. So I'd had this walk one day, and then perhaps, well, I don't know, a week later, I wrote this poem. Now, I never went out and said, I'm going to write a poem today. Time is irrelevant between the event and the actual writing. When I started writing, I initially wrote about the shipyards that I worked in as a young man, but I wrote about them 20 years after I had worked there. So sometimes you can wait a long time for an idea to germinate, or other times you can't get home quick enough to write down your thoughts regarding something. There's no hard set rules for us, everyone's different. Just do your own thing. That's the main, do your own thing. And what I've tried to do in here, as usual, is take the reader on the walk, I hope, and get over some of the ethos that I felt about Castle Semple Loch. But also about how when you're out with your children and you go for an event, whatever it might be, they don't particularly enjoy it perhaps on the surface. They're a bit bored, a bit apprehensive, whatever. Impatient to get there, impatient to get home again. However, the adults seem to savour it more. But as the years go on, the children remember it, and it becomes more meaningful to them, perhaps, and amongst other stuff going on in their life. So memories sometimes, I think, mature as the years go on. That's just me. Who knows? Anyway, this poem's titled Catching Memories. In Castle Semple Loch, a father spins dreams of pike or perch, lobs lures that glint, plop into silvery sunlit sliver bobbing on the crests of afternoon ripples. Memories will be his catch of the day, of his little boy's first casting, of his first line, of his showing mild interest as he munches on a banana. Watched over by his dad, who is decked out with baseball cap, peaked to the back in camouflage waders, immersed in water to his knees, with landing net at the ready. His tackle box nearby, with spare line, lures, bobbers, swivels, leaders, sinkers, hooks, needle-nose pliers, and stories of the ones that got away. As the wife unwraps an appreciative smile and a sandwich or two, patiently pouring warming mugs of tea from her flask. A dinghy tacks, its sail heading horizontal, whilst unknown sailors lean in the opposite direction, their backs almost touching the water. The father, the son, the wife, and the Castle Semple Loch. Thank you.